Welcome back, all my fashionistas and my aspiring pattern makers. If you have a garment that is not fitting well and you need to do something to it, a procedure to make it fit well, or if it is short and you need to lengthen it, then that procedure is what we call an alteration. So when you hear of the word alteration to a garment, you are thinking either it is too big or it is too small or tight and you need to let out some seams and you need to do some alteration where it can fit better, or it could be a situation where it is too short and you need to lengthen it, or it could be too long and you need to shorten it. Now, alteration can be a task that is easy or it can be a task that is difficult. And if you are dealing with a lined garment, the time to alter that garment is going to be much more than the time to alter an online garment. And also, if the lining of the garment is not attached to the fabric of that garment, then that alteration is easier for you to do. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to lengthen the sleeve of a tailored jacket. The person is a tall person and has long arms, and so they couldn't find their size for the jacket that is going to fit both their chest size and also the length of the sleeve. So they decided, hey, I'm still going to buy the jacket because I love it and I need it. So they brought it to me and asked me if I could lengthen the sleeve. Mark you, the person's sleeve length is 26 inches from the shoulder all the way down to the wrist. And on this jacket is 24.5 inches. So I need to get an inch and a half. So I looked at the jacket and I said, wow, there is a vent on the sleeve. And not only that, it is mitered, because normally when you have a vent that is open on the sleeve end of a jacket, it is mitered at the corner. And I said to the person, this could be a difficult one. However, I said, you know what, before I say anything else, let me check this out. So what I did, I got a seam ripper and I opened the seam that is joining the mitered corner. Lo and behold, I was so elated because the excess fabric on the mitered corner was not cut away. And that is very important, because if they had cut that excess fabric away, then I would have to think of some other way where I can simply lengthen the sleeve, and that would be tedious because it depends on how they would have done it. And this is what the pattern for a mitered sleeve looks like, and you can see that there's the excess piece that is cut away on this pattern piece, as opposed to this pattern where the hem of that sleeve will not have mitered. So you have to make sure that before you start doing any alteration, just check to make sure that if there is a mitered hem and you open the seam of that mitered hem, or you feel to see if there is any excess fabric underneath, then you're good to go to do the alteration. Otherwise, you won't be able to do the alteration. When I checked my inventory, I didn't have any gray fabric that is going to match the suit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? The stores are closed and I need to have this done for this person because they need it the following day to wear it. So I opted to use a piece of black fabric because, hey, it's going to be used as the facing of the sleeve at the wrist. So since I'm using a facing to face the edge of the sleeve, then using the black is going to be fine. What I did is that after I have separated the lining from the jacket sleeve, then I ironed it. The next thing I noticed that there are 4 buttons on the vent of that sleeve towards the wrist. So I need to remove 2 of the buttons, the 2 upper buttons, and bring them below the other 2 buttons. So I took off the buttons. With this, I took the measurement of the sleeve wrist where it turned up, and also at the edge of the sleeve hem. I took those 2 measurements and I wrote them down, and then I have to cut pieces of fabric which is going to be used for the facing, and those two pieces of fabric, I'm going to cut them 2 inches wide. So from the fold of the sleeve end to the edge, that was 2 inches there. So that's why I cut it 2 inches wide. So that will compensate for the extra 1.5 inches that I'm getting on the sleeve. So this is the men's jacket, and it is too short for the individual, and this is the original hemline, as you can see here. And because this is the original hemline, you can see that the way that I did it, I end up getting 1.5 inches in the length that the person was able to get. So this jacket is now going to be 1.5 inches longer than what it was originally. And because of that, I also will have to move the 2 upper buttons. And how I get to that is because the distance between the last button and the original hem is 1.5 inches. And because it's 1.5 inches there, when I measured, I noticed that the 1.5 inches is taking me to the middle of the 3rd button. So I'm just going to move the upper 2 buttons and bring them down to here. That's why I took out this button already. Then I will replace this button right here, and I will also move this one down. So the next thing that I had to do after I've cut that, I'm going to sew the seams together for the facing, and I'm going to press them open. And it's good that you press your garment open after you have removed any seam or open any seam. You need to press it open when you're doing alteration in that case. So I did that. I pressed them open, and I now have my facing, and I have the seams of the facing where it was joined press open. The next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to attach the facing to the sleeve end. So I did that, and then I'm going to top stitch along the edge of the facing by the seam. So once you have top stitched at the edge, then you can iron it under to turn it under. So I also measure the circumference where that 2-inch line is, so that it is not going to be tight around here, this black piece. So you have to make sure you do that also, not just measuring along the end of the sleeve, but also measuring 2 inches up on the circumference to make sure you get the same measurement. And I attach this onto the fabric by stitching it, and then I did the top stitching, as you can see here. And after I've done that, what I also did, I attached the lining piece right onto the original lining. They use a different color, and as you can see, I did not have the same matching color lining to use, so that's why I choose to use black. As a key thing, before you start removing the lining from the sleeve, I would suggest that you put a pin here where it was, so that when you are working with it, you don't end up attaching this side, the other side, to the other end of the sleeve, and then you will have a problem there. You want to make sure that you're going to put in your sleeve properly, or else you can't push your hand through like this, or the person cannot push their hand through. So as a guide, it is good to put a safety pin there and have it attached, and you still have room, enough room, where you can work with when you are turning under your seam allowance there. So after you have attached that and you top stitch and you also press, you have it pinned, then what I did, I turn over the hem area like this, turn it over like this, and I hem all around, and you're just catching a piece of the fabric and the actual piece that you attached, and you're just hemming it all around. Okay, once you do the hem all around, then you are ready to attach the lining onto the actual garment. So you do your hem, Okay, come back to where you started, and then you can just do a double stitch right there and loop it through, loop your thread through, and then you can cut your thread. Let's turn it over. All right, you shouldn't see any thread showing on the outside like that. You shouldn't see any thread there. You are now going to attach the lining of that facing onto the lining of the jacket. And remember now, don't attach it the wrong way. The circumference must line up. So make sure when you are attaching the lining to the lining of the sleeve that you're not attaching it with the wrong circumference. They have to line up and match. So be careful there. The narrow part is what you are going to attach to the sleeve hem, and then you will have that fitting right. Say for instance, if the sleeve hem allowance was 1.5 inches, the maximum that you can get when you are lengthening that, if you are using 1/4 inch seam allowance to attach the facing, you can get 1.25 inches. So let's continue with the alteration of this garment. So now you're ready to attach the lining onto the sleeve itself, and notice here, and this is the reason why, because I have it pinned and I want to make sure, yeah, it's pinned. So I'm going to get the part with the seam, and I know it is around here. So this is the part with the seam right there, and I'm going to line it up with this. So once I do that, right, I want to make sure that it's lined up. You can pin from this end like this, and double check to make sure that it's lining up, and see it's off a little bit. So that's why it's good to make sure that it is lining up. Seam to seam, must do that, very important. So double check again, and yes, right, there it is, seam to seam. Okay, once you have it seam to seam, then you're good. You can pin some more, and I'm going to pin around to as much as I can, and then you'll be able to take it to the sewing machine after that. You need about 5 pins on there, and once you have the 5 pins on there, then you can start stitching. So you're going to start stitching from here all around using the sewing machine, and you will continue stitching all around. So this is the sleeve here, and I started stitching from here going all around. This is the lining I'm attaching to the end of the piece that I extended onto the sleeve. Remember, I had hemmed it, and this is the hem that you're looking at right there. So once I do that, I won't be able to stitch all around the entire circumference with the lining attached to the sleeve. So where it stopped, what I have to do now is just turn it over. And this is the reason why I said that you should have that safety pin that is holding it, because once you do that, see, you're still able to push your arm through. You can also push your hand through from this end like this to test to make sure that you are attaching the lining properly and it is not twisted. So that is very important. So once I have that, you can take out this extra pin here. You don't need it. You will then notice that you will have a space here where the lining is not attached to the fabric, as there's an opening right there. All you have to do at that opening is now simply pin it. You're gonna pin it first, right? Make sure the seam allowance is matching up. You're gonna pin it Okay, so you have this now, and you're going to just simply stitch it, and this is what it's going to look like. You're just going to also do that hem stitching there to catch the lining. This is where it had stopped on the other one, all the way down and come to where the other end part is, where you stop. So once you do that, then yes, you're done. So now you can take out your pins that you have, and once you take out your pins, you can go ahead now, you can iron this. This is what it looks like. See, doesn't that look wonderful? There you are. Okay, it's just a pity that they had used a different lining when they were lining this jacket, but it is fine. And you still have that little vent going on there, but hey, the main purpose of this is that the person now has that extra 1.5 inches in the length of the jacket, so they are able to wear the jacket. One thing I must point out to you is the fact that if you have a jacket that's lined, you always have the lining extending over the hem allowance part, so it will usually extend for about, say, 1/2 inch up from the edge. All right, and in this case you will notice that the lining will still have that extra fold over away from the stitch line, so you must have that on every jacket, and this is important. So even though the jacket length was short, it is very important that you have that extra piece there where you will still have that fold there on the end of the jacket, and this is what I'm talking about. So you have the jacket, you're looking under at the jacket. When it's ironed, that's what it's going to look like. You're going to have that all around on the jacket, and that's very important because you need that extra room. Every jacket must have that. So the person has long arms, and they didn't have the size for the long arm person, and so they bought a jacket and brought it to me. It's actually my son. Yeah, he brought a jacket and he said, "Mom, can you please make it longer?" And this is what I did. What the finished product looks like with the buttons, the 2 upper buttons removed and placed below, and now he's able to wear the jacket. So with that being said, if you own a jacket and the sleeve length is too short for you and you want to have it extended and there is enough room, at least 1.5 inches, or if you can get 1 inch extra based on the hem allowance, then go ahead and have someone alter that jacket for you, or you can try it yourself. It is not hard, and put it to test. Okay, so with that being said, I hope this video has helped you tremendously, and if you know someone that has a jacket that is too short, you will go ahead and do that person a favor and lengthen the jacket for them. Or it could be you. If you have a jacket and the sleeve is too short, you can go ahead and put an extension on that end of the jacket sleeve so that you can lengthen the jacket so you can wear it with more confidence. So in conclusion, now that you know how to lengthen the sleeve of a jacket that is too short and it is lined, I hope that you will go ahead and give it a shot. You might be shopping and you see a jacket that you really love, but the sleeve length is too short. Hey, go ahead and buy it if you really love it, and go home and try to alter it. Follow the steps that I just laid out in this video and you will be successful at it. So if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you like what you see, hit the like button also. Hey, don't keep this knowledge to yourself. No. Share it with others around the world so they too can alter any jacket that they have that might have a short sleeve and they need to lengthen it. We all want to learn and learn from each other. And While you're at it, leave me a comment. I like to read your comments. And thanks for watching, and see you soon on the next video to come. Bye now.